you can hear my computer in the background. It's always made that noise. I don't know why it makes that noise. It's clearly Windows wants the processor to do shit that it doesn't need to do, right? So it's, I'm working overtime for you, and sending my data to Microsoft. Clearly, I really miss doing stand-up comedy. Um, I haven't made a vlog since, not a real one anyway, since December. It's October of the next year, and there's a lot of reasons why I haven't made a vlog. Lack of time, lack of privacy sometimes, um, lack of the will to do it. I've had a really I've had a really shitty year, in a lot of ways, and it started with the totaling of the van that I bought. I About 2 years ago, I flew out to San Francisco to buy a camper van, and when I went to go buy it, the guy the guy rolled up in the van and he said, "I don't think you should buy this van because the brakes didn't work. I had to use the emergency brake in order to stop just now." And I was like, "Okay, well let's take a look at it. Let's take a look about." Where the fuck did that come from? Let's take a look at it. I don't know how to talk apparently when there's a camera on me. So yeah, I got into the van and I tested the brakes and was like, "Oh, it seems like uh, um, the brake fluid is." I couldn't think of the word brake fluid. Yeah, I haven't planned this video out. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, the brake fluid was empty because there was no pressure on the brake pedal. So I said that to him, like, this is like an easy fix. This happened in my car once, and I took it into the shop, and it was like $50, and I got it back. And we're in California, so I would assume that the price is a lot steeper. They might charge you $500, but this is not a big deal. You get that fixed, and I'll still buy the van. And he took it into the shop, and it turned out that the whole brake line was basically falling off the van, and it was going to cost him like $3,000 to fix it. And he was willing to fix it. He wanted me to pitch in an extra 1,000 for the van, and I was like, okay, I can do that. So I bought this van. It took about a week for the brake line to get fixed, and so I spent a week in San Francisco. That's not what this video is supposed to be about, by the way. I'm just totally. I have ADD and I'm rambling. I'm pretty sure I have ADD. I've never been diagnosed, but like I can't stay focused. I can't stay focused on anything, and I don't know why I can't stay focused. All I can assume is that I have fucking ADD. But this video is supposed to be about something totally different, and here I am talking about this fucking van. The van got totaled, and I haven't finished paying it off. And it got totaled in December of last year. It got totaled literally a week after my last vlog. And that it was like an omen for the rest of the year because I had so many shitty things happen. I tried to help my brother out, who was about to be imminently homeless, according to him, in Mexico / California, because he lives right on the border of Mexico and San Diego. It turned out that was a lie because he spent 2 months. I paid for him to come to Wisconsin. He spent 2 months here, and then ended up going right back to his same living situation in Mexico. So it's like, okay, well, what the fuck was my help needed for? Apparently nothing. And then one of my best friends, who I've known since I was 12 or 11, since I was in 8th grade, he passed away in April. And yeah, just my whole summer, I don't even remember half of it. One of these things I've often said about stand-up comedy is that it's therapy. Stand-up comedy, stand-up is therapy. I knew this guy in Madison who would say the same thing. He would write and joke about very personal shit. And I didn't mean it the same way that he did. Because for me, writing jokes and putting these very personal things up on stage humorously, it wasn't so much therapeutic about dealing with things, but it was therapeutic in how I related to other people. I realized pretty early on doing stand-up comedy that um, a lot of the friendships that I've had over the years were not friendships, and it made me really laser focused on the people in my life who were my friends, you know, who like genuinely cared about me. Um, about a month before I started doing stand-up comedy, I had this circle of friends, maybe about 8 people that I knew, and I spent time with on a regular basis. And I kind of had this realization that I was being bullied by one of them, and nobody else who was part of that circle would defend me or stand up for me or even want to listen to my opinion or my point of view. And I thought, well, I might as well not even be here. And so I didn't like huff and walk away from those friends. I just quietly stopped interacting with them. I stopped uh, I stopped hanging out with them. I stopped because I felt present. I didn't feel invited. I felt like I was present in their lives, uh, but that I was generally unwanted. And it's the same group of people that when YouTube first started like 20 years ago, I had all these ideas for sketches and comedic things to do, and none of them wanted to be in it. None of them wanted to participate. They just thought it was a waste of time. They thought this is ridiculous. This is stupid. I don't want to be on camera on a video online that's going to exist forever, you know, like um and I kept thinking, well, I'm going to have to find people who want to be in comedic videos. And so I ended up I got one friend to be, I think, in 2 videos at the most. I don't. It doesn't. That's the minutia. I don't want to get sidetracked on it. But I basically had friends that weren't supportive of what I wanted to do. And like even when I said, "Oh, I'm going to go do this thing," why would you want to do that? You know, like because it would bring me happiness. Like, does it need to do anything other than that? And I kind of the first 2 years that I was doing stand-up comedy, I kind of one of the things that happens is that your old friends kind of melt away into the background, and then you end up having these all new friends because you're having these social interactions with other stand-up comics. And sometimes they want to do things with you, and sometimes they're not interested in your ideas because they want to do their own thing. You know, like getting stand-up comics to be in a sketch comedy is worse than getting someone who's not a stand-up comic to be in sketch comedy, ironically, because they want to be in something that they wrote. They don't want to be in the thing that you wrote, you know? Um, but what I realized after about a year or two was that um, I really didn't have any friends in the stand-up comedy scene either. Um, And there's a fly right above my head. Uh, and I had this podcast that I was doing. I kind of like fell into it. I didn't want to do a podcast, but I just kind of, it just sort of happened. And so I dove into it feet first, and then it started to peter out. And when the energy for it started to die off, I was like, okay, I can just quietly stop doing this. And I realized after a couple of months, hey, nobody has asked me about the podcast. Nobody has asked me, hey, why haven't you made a new episode? It would have like I would have like a regular following of listens, like 50 to 100 every week. And all of a sudden, I stopped doing it and nobody said anything. Like not a single person, not even an email or a text or anything like that. I was like, huh, nobody really cares. Um, and I kind of put myself out there vulnerably to see how people would latch onto it. And there were a few people in the scene who were actually quite hostile towards other comics. And all that really did was give them more chum to chew on, basically. That's probably a bad metaphor, but it's the first thing that popped into my head. Sharks in the water. But despite all, like, I guess I'm making it sound worse than it actually is, but I really miss doing stand-up comedy. And the whole point of buying that van was so that I could, it was a camper van, basically. It had like it had its own toilet, it had a stove, had a bed, had everything. The idea was that I could live out of it and I could work like a part-time job somewhere to pay for food, pay for gas, and regular expenses. And I could still do comedy in anywhere. I could go to any city and live out of my van and do comedy. And haven't had that van for 10 months. I just finally finished paying it off last month. So I spent 2 years paying for a van that I only got to drive for about a year. And before it got totaled, I was thinking, I can't live out of the van because I had a dog. I had Loki. And I couldn't leave Loki behind, and so I couldn't very well take him with me either, because what does he even do? Like stay in the van while I go work? That's inhumane and cruel. And it's not like I can chain the dog up to the outside of the van, because if I'm living someplace like Austin, Texas, like it's hot outside, so there were all these logistical reasons why I couldn't do it last winter. And then the van got totaled anyway, so it's a moot point. And I guess the point of this video is that my learning curve with stand-up comedy was the same as my learning curve about friendship. I kind of realized who the important people were in my life, and I have about 3 of them. Except that one of them died in April, so now I really only have 2 of them. And it sucks. It sucks being an adult and trying to make friends. It sucks realizing that you've spent 15 years being friends with someone and they don't actually give a shit about you at all. I just this summer I went through my friends list on Facebook, and all these people that kind of melted away into the background of my life, I went through and I blocked every single one of them. It's like I haven't heard from any of them in the last 7 years, 8 years. In the last 8 years, I haven't had a single one of them reach out to me via a comment or an email or a text or a phone call or anything. And I'm like, clearly not my friends. And it's weird too, because I 4 years ago I moved to this town, and it's like 1,000 people, and I don't know how that translates to whether or not you can make friends with people, but it's hard making friends as an adult because everyone thinks you have an agenda, or they have you have like an underlying motive. There's um, in in a way, making friends in a small town is like being a man and trying to become friends with a woman, because a woman will always think, oh, he just wants to have sex with me. And like being friends with trying to make friends in a small town doesn't, like, everybody has this aura of suspicion around them. And it's disconcerting. It's it's disheartening. That's a better word for it. It's disheartening. I spent years being disheartened by my friends, and like I had no energy and no ambition to do anything because my friends weren't supportive. And now I'm in a situation where like I don't really have any friends. I don't Even the two friends that I still have, it's like I don't talk to them on the phone. I don't see them anymore. When we do talk about things, we don't really talk about anything real or substantive or emotional. And yeah, not hasn't been a good year, and I guess I'm not in a good place because I really miss stand-up comedy, and I think that's like the only thing I want to be doing right now.